There's this moment when everything you think you know about your life just tilts. Like someone grabbed the snow globe you call reality, shook the hell out of it, and watched the pieces float. For me, that moment happened in the middle of a Tuesday. I was at my usual spot, a local Seattle coffee shop where I do most of my freelance graphic design work. The place smells like ambition and almond milk. I was halfway through a client deck, sipping on a lavender oat milk latte, when I overheard two women chatting at the next table. "Did you hear? That woman, Celia, won $500,000 in the state lottery. Can you believe that? And she's still showing up to work like she needs the paycheck." "Celia? The one who runs that little boutique consulting firm downtown?" "Yeah, total boss. And apparently she's dating someone new. Married, but technically separated. You know how that goes." My stomach dropped. Celia, boutique consulting firm, and the word married. I slowly closed my laptop. Celia Matheson. I'd met her once, in passing. She came to a fundraiser with my husband, David. He said she was a client. She looked like confidence dipped in luxury. Older than me by maybe 5 years, designer heels, and that poised, effortless, moneyed, calm women like me pretend not to envy. My hands went cold, and the rest of the conversation around me turned into white noise. I went home that night and stared at David while he talked about his day. Nothing out of the ordinary. He was animated, charming. Hell, he even cooked dinner. Like a man who wasn't juggling two women. Like a man who didn't just choose a jackpot over a marriage. And that's when I realized something that cut sharper than the betrayal itself. This wasn't about love. It was about power, status. She earned more than I did. That was all it took. He didn't cheat because he fell in love. He cheated because someone flashier, wealthier, shinier came along. A $500,000 woman. So I smiled. I said nothing. But I started planning. And sweetheart, let me tell you, he has no idea what's coming. Let's get one thing straight. I don't do hysterics. I don't throw plates or cry in parking lots. I take notes. I screenshot. I log dates. So after that overheard coffee shop bombshell, I went full forensic wife mode. The first clue was his new conference in Vancouver. A week-long branding summit, supposedly. Except David hadn't even mentioned it until the night before. "I'll be out next week. Big conference thing. Super last minute," he said, casually packing his luggage. I watched him fold his dress shirts like a man who wasn't panicking about being caught. That's the thing about confident liars. They forget the little tells, like how he suddenly had a Canadian SIM card, or how he updated his emergency contact in our shared medical app to someone named Celia M. Yeah, not exactly subtle, babe. Meanwhile, I went into our shared Venmo history, not to snoop, just to verify, for budgeting. He'd gotten sloppy. A payment labeled "Surprise Wine Night" from 3 weekends ago. Another with a pizza emoji and the words "Late Night Cravings" sent at 2 a.m. Who the hell needs pizza at 2 a.m. in Vancouver unless you're also cheating in 2 time zones? I took screenshots. Not because I needed proof. I already knew. But because revenge demands evidence, precision, timing. Then came the final straw, his Gmail. He'd changed his password. Cute. Except David, bless his predictable male ego, uses the same pattern for everything. Birth year plus dog's name plus a variation of the word hustle. I cracked it on my 3rd try. And there it was, a string of emails with Celia. Subject lines like, "Miss you already," and "Next time, Bora Bora?" I scrolled with the numb calm of someone watching a crime scene in slow motion. He told her I was emotionally unavailable. Said I didn't get his ambition. That I was content being average while he craved more. More what? More money? More ego stroking? More of her? Well, good. Let him crave. Because what I'm about to serve him? Oh, it's gonna be memorable. There's a certain kind of clarity that hits you after betrayal. Like your brain stops making room for excuses. Suddenly, everything sharpens. His lies, his patterns, his weak spots. David had a type. He liked to feel powerful, revered, worshipped. And he couldn't resist attention when it came wrapped in professionalism with a hint of seduction. So I decided to give him exactly that. First, I created a fake boutique marketing agency. I called it Vesper and Veil because nothing screams high-end strategy like alliteration and a slightly pretentious ampersand. I bought the domain, built a sleek one-page site with client logos I knew he'd recognize, and created a fake founder, Jay Blackwell, a mysterious woman with connections in the Bay Area tech scene. Through a burner LinkedIn, I reached out to David's work email with a proposal. Vesper and Veil was expanding into Seattle and looking for collaboration with a sharp branding consultant. I cited one of his recent public presentations. Yes, the one he gave wearing the same blazer he wore to our anniversary dinner last year, because even in betrayal, he lacked imagination. Predictably, he responded within 36 hours. Flattered, curious, eager to impress. I took my time replying. People like David chase more when they think they're being chased less. Meanwhile, I contacted my lawyer. I told her I wanted to set up a new consulting business, officially. Something clean, separate, fully in my name. I wasn't lying. That part was real. I was building a new business, just not for branding, for freedom, financial independence, for getting the hell away from a man who used to be my world and had now become a case study in ambition-fueled infidelity. "You're moving assets?" my lawyer asked after our second call. "Yes," I said, quietly. By the time David flew back from Vancouver, looking smug and sun-kissed, I'd already started the process of moving our joint funds into a trust with my name on it. Nothing illegal, just a restructuring, as my lawyer called it. The best part? David didn't notice. He was too busy bragging about how he might land a private contract with a new luxury branding firm out of California. "Can you believe that?" he grinned over dinner one night, slicing into a steak I paid for. "It's like this whole new level's opening up." I sipped my wine. "You've always had a gift for catching the right people's attention." He smiled, thought it was a compliment. God, I almost pitied him. Almost. Because that private contract, that was me. And the next stage of the bait? A fake invitation to a closed industry dinner hosted by Vesper and Veil. Exclusive, press-invited, and happening in 2 weeks at one of the trendiest rooftop venues in the city. Dress code? Black tie. Spouses welcome. I knew he'd bring her. He had no idea I'd already reserved the entire venue. No idea the guest list would be stacked with real investors, colleagues, and friends of mine. And absolutely no clue what I'd prepared for the presentation that night. He thought he was getting the biggest career break of his life. And he was. Just not the kind he expected. There's something deliciously cinematic about a rooftop at sunset. The city's glittering skyline, the clinking of glasses, the soft jazz hum in the background. Everything feels elegant, important, expensive. Perfect for a little public reckoning. 2 weeks after David returned from Vancouver, I hosted what he believed was an exclusive industry dinner, an invite-only event from a rising agency looking to redefine luxury branding. He thought Vesper and Veil was his next big move. What he didn't know? It was also his last. The venue was immaculate. Marble tables, candles and hurricane glass, waitstaff dressed in sleek black, and gold foil name cards at every seat. The guest list was a curated mix. Former clients of mine, old friends from grad school, a few local media people I knew through a PR contact, and one very specific freelance photographer with a gift for capturing unfiltered moments. I arrived early, wearing a crimson silk dress that hugged all the right places and warned, without a single word, I'm not the same woman you thought you could cheat on and walk away from. David showed up at 7:12 p.m., right on time for his own downfall. He walked in with her, Celia. She looked exactly as expected, polished, confident, wearing a floor-length navy gown that screamed, I'm used to being admired. She smiled like she owned the place. I greeted them warmly. David, Celia, so glad you could make it. His face registered a flicker of confusion, but he recovered fast. Didn't expect to see you here, babe, he said with a too smooth smile, like this was some happy coincidence. Oh, I'm not just here, I said sweetly. I'm hosting. He laughed nervously. Wait, what? You'll see. We moved to the table and I let the tension simmer like a low boil. I gave a toast, thanked everyone for coming, and teased a short presentation about the future of brand partnerships in a post-authenticity world. David nodded along like he'd already mentally updated his resume. Then the lights dimmed. The screen behind me came to life. The first slide. Trust is the currency of modern branding. The second, a photo of David and Celia at what was very clearly the rooftop bar of their Vancouver hotel. Her hand on his knee, a wine bottle between them with a time-stamped label. The room froze. David made a choking sound. Apologies, I said smoothly. Wrong slide. I clicked again. More photos, more timestamps, screenshots of his Venmo transactions, his emails to Celia, even an excerpt from a Slack conversation where he joked with a colleague about leveraging both assets when referring to me and Celia in the same breath. The photographer? Clicking quietly the entire time. Gasps filled the room. One woman actually whispered, "Oh my God," like we were watching a live crime unfold. Celia stood up. This is a setup. Correct, I said. And sweetheart, you walked right into it. But I do appreciate you dressing the part. David tried to speak. I raised a hand. You cheated on me with a woman you met through a client deal. You took our shared savings to impress her. And you lied, repeatedly. So no, I'm not giving you a scene. I'm giving you an audience. He went pale. I turned to the room. For those of you wondering if this is personal, yes, but it's also professional. Because if someone is this careless in their personal integrity, imagine what corners they'll cut when your brand's on the line. Mic drop. Celia bolted, David followed. And me? I raised a glass. To closure, I said, to a round of stunned, almost reverent applause. I had just turned my pain into performance art, and baby, I owned the room. You know what's fascinating about a man like David? He doesn't crumble immediately. No, first he scrambles, claws, bargains. Because guys like him don't think consequences are real until they're delivered in certified envelopes. The morning after the rooftop event, my phone blew up with text after text. David, we need to talk. David, you didn't have to do all that. David, can we please handle this privately? David, I'm sorry, please, I was confused. Confused? I nearly laughed. This man wasn't confused when he booked a deluxe suite with Celia using our joint card. He wasn't confused when he bought her a Cartier bracelet on my birthday weekend. And he damn sure wasn't confused when he changed his phone password to hide the notifications that eventually became my weapon of choice. What he was exposed. So I ignored him. Instead, I had breakfast with my lawyer. We sat at a sleek downtown cafe, sipping espresso while she walked me through Phase 3, full financial detachment. My name? Coming off everything connected to him. My accounts? Already secured and moved into a personal LLC. The condo? Half mine on paper, but soon to be fully his, along with the tax liability and pending HOA lawsuit I conveniently never told him about. "Do you want to go scorched earth or quietly lethal?" my lawyer asked, stirring her drink. I didn't even pause. "Both, with a twist of poetic." She grinned. "That's my girl." We filed for divorce that afternoon. Irreconcilable differences was the box we checked, but really, it should have said, he gambled a marriage on a mistress and a midlife crisis. What David didn't know was that 6 months earlier, I'd added a postnup agreement into our estate planning folder under the guise of just-in-case paperwork. He signed it without reading the fine print. Typical. And in that fine print, a clause that protected my premarital investments, my inheritance from my grandmother, and, wait for it, the bonus kicker. If infidelity was proven, hello screenshots, he forfeited claim to any asset growth during the marriage. So the condo equity? Mine. My stock portfolio that tripled during the pandemic? Also mine. The shared savings he rated for hotel rooms and fancy dinners with Celia? That was where it got fun. My attorney filed a claim for reimbursement. The receipts, yes, literal receipts, attached to the motion were a montage of idiocy. Spa weekends, luxury rentals, meals with $400 wine pairings. His name was on every bill. Her name showed up on hotel registries. It was a legal slam dunk. While he begged me to not make this uglier than it has to be, I smiled in meetings and signed documents like I was confirming a brunch reservation. You see, revenge isn't about destruction. It's about detachment. I stopped reacting. I stopped explaining. And the silence? It drove him wild. 3 weeks after the divorce was filed, David showed up at my apartment uninvited. Classic narcissist move. Assume access even after access is revoked. He stood there in his blue blazer, the same one from our engagement photo, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. "I made a mistake," he said. "No," I replied. "You made several. Repeatedly, with full awareness, and with a woman who thought branding strategist meant leveraging her lottery winnings into someone else's life." He winced. "I lost everything." I tilted my head. "No, you gave it away. I just made sure you didn't get to keep the part that was mine." He asked if we could try again. I asked if he wanted a glass of wine to celebrate my freedom. He left. And I opened a bottle anyway. To self-respect. To calculated revenge. To rebuilding not as a victim, but as the woman who walked away holding the receipts. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. I say, serve it stylishly, with a side of strategy and just a hint of social media virality. After the divorce papers were filed, and David had slithered away from my apartment with his sad little plea for another chance, I didn't waste a single breath looking back. Instead, I focused on legacy, reputation, recovery, rebirth. Because once you burn the bridge behind you, babe, you might as well build a skyline in its place. Enter the Reclamation Project. That's what I called my new business venture. Not a branding agency, not a revenge blog. Something in between. A consultancy meets platform for women restarting after public betrayals. Divorce, corporate sabotage, financial infidelity. We offered financial planning services, digital PR rehab, and private workshops on turning scandal into strategy. It started as an idea over coffee with my attorney and my therapist. But within 2 months, it became a full-blown movement. And the launch? Oh, darling. The launch was the encore David never saw coming. It began with an op-ed. I published it anonymously in Seattle Weekly under the title, "What Happens When Your Husband Chooses a Lottery Ticket Over Loyalty?" No names, no defamation, just facts. Precision-cut truth wrapped in velvet. I told my story in a way that resonated, not with rage, but with clarity. The kind of voice that made other women whisper, oh my God, this was me, and she just said everything I couldn't. The piece went viral in 3 days, reposted on Reddit, shared on Twitter, picked up by a major podcast. DMs started flooding in from women all over the country. And then, like glitter tossed into a scandal, Celia's name leaked. Not from me, I was too calculated for that. But someone, bless their nosy soul, pieced together vacation posts from her now private Instagram, matched dates, and boom, her $500,000 lottery win was no longer the headline. It was the footnote to her role in a high-profile affair that ended in legal penalties, brand damage, and the creation of a now-trending platform for emotional economic justice. David tried to get ahead of it, posted a long, self-pitying caption about owning mistakes and private pain going public. He even tried to reframe himself as a man working through trauma. I didn't respond. But the Reclamation Project's Instagram posted a quote the next day. When men lose power, they often redefine their shame as growth. Let them. You're still ahead. The comments? Brutal. Deliciously brutal. Celia disappeared from public events. Her consulting firm's website quietly went under maintenance. And David? Let's just say no one was hiring a brand visionary who couldn't even manage his own narrative. Meanwhile, I was booking panels. I was styling photo shoots. I was walking into networking events wearing black satin suits with gold cuffs and energy that said, I survived your betrayal, and now I monetize it. People whispered about me now, but not in pity, in awe. Because here's the secret they never teach women in rom-coms. You don't need closure. You need control. And I had it. Not just over my finances or my business or the version of the story being passed around like wine at a book club, but over my self-worth. Because when David chose Celia, he thought he was trading up. Turns out, he just walked away from a woman who was about to become unstoppable. I thought I had all the cards, the business, the narrative, the moral high ground polished into a weapon of choice. But life has a twisted sense of humor. And just when you think the dust has settled, someone shows up holding a part of your story you didn't even know was missing. It happened on a Thursday. Gray sky, lazy rain, Seattle moodiness at its finest. I was reviewing financial reports from the Reclamation Project, which, by the way, had just landed its first international partnership, when my building's doorman buzzed up. Harper, there's a woman here to see you. Says her name is Amanda Collins. Should I send her up? The name didn't register, but something in my gut stirred. Sure, I said. Send her up. 3 minutes later, in walked a woman in her early 40s, polished but practical, like someone who wore Armani only when she had to. Her eyes were serious, smart, dangerous, but in the way that suggests she's more interested in helping you than hurting you, unless you give her a reason. You don't know me, she began, shaking the rain from her trench. But I used to know David. Quite well. I blinked. You're an ex? No, worse. His former business partner. Oh. She sat down, uninvited but confident. That told me everything. I heard about what happened, she said, cutting right to the chase. And I'm not here to throw salt on wounds. I'm here because David's been lying longer than you think. I narrowed my eyes. Define longer. She opened her bag and pulled out a slim black folder. Inside, contracts, investment proposals. One was dated 3 months before our wedding. You see, Harper, Amanda said, David tried to launch a side company while you were planning your honeymoon. Used one of my angel investors. Burned through 50 grand in 6 weeks and ghosted before the pitch tour. I sued him in arbitration. He signed an NDA and agreed to settle quietly. I never heard from him again until last month. What happened last month? I got a LinkedIn connection request from a man named D. Andrews with a pitch deck that looked suspiciously familiar. I actually laughed, not out of amusement, but disbelief. The man had recycled an old scam, changed the font, and went fishing for capital again. "You're not the only one who got used," Amanda said. "But you? You built something from the ashes. Me? I went after him legally. I won. But I never got that money back." She paused, then added with a flicker of fire in her voice, "I want in." "In what?" "Whatever it is you're building. I want to help. And I want to help bury him." God, I liked her instantly. Over the next 2 hours, she laid out more than I ever knew. That David had a history of cutting corners. That the Celia situation? Not his first affair with a woman who could bankroll his delusions. He once tried to proposition a client during a brand retreat. Amanda caught him and severed ties, but the damage was already done. He was a habitual opportunist. A man who didn't just cheat on women, he cheated on everyone. I shared my version of events. The affair, the lottery, the rooftop dinner. She laughed. "You're poetic. I'm tactical. We'd make a hell of a team." And just like that, a new alliance formed. Not out of bitterness, but out of brilliance. 2 women who refused to stay silent. 2 versions of justice coming together like gasoline and flame. Later that night, I opened my laptop and checked my email. A notification from my lawyer had just landed. Subject: Final ruling. Divorce, assets, and reimbursement. The judgment was in. David owed me a 5-figure reimbursement, retroactive asset share, and full forfeiture of any equity from the reclamation project. The post-nup held strong. The judge cited clear evidence of financial betrayal and, my favorite phrase, willful misrepresentation. David's response? A single line of desperation. "You've ruined my life." I didn't reply. Instead, I forwarded the message to Amanda with a note. "Consider this our new mission statement." 3 days after the court ruling came down, and I finally shut David out of my financial ecosystem for good, I got the email. No subject, no signature. Just a single PDF attachment and a message that read, "You should know who she really is. A friend." The file was a scanned document, a redacted contract dated before Celia ever won the lottery. It detailed a private investor deal, $100,000 wired from an anonymous shell LLC to Celia Matheson. Under Purpose of Funds, 1 line, Political Donation Laundering, Intermediary Agreement. I read it 5 times. Celia wasn't just a rich businesswoman who got lucky with a Powerball ticket. She was a financial mule, someone who moved dirty money for powerful people, quietly, strategically. The lottery win? A convenient cover story. But the timing didn't add up. According to public records, Celia's winning ticket was purchased a week after the $100,000 deposit. The math didn't lie. Neither did the tip. I ran the document past Amanda. Her reaction was immediate. This isn't just shady, it's federal. And David? He had no idea. He thought he'd landed a trophy with a trust fund. He'd walked into a damn front. Which meant, whether he knew it or not, he was involved. Tied, even loosely, to a financial crime that could turn their little romance into a legal disaster. The temptation was real. Expose her. Drag her name. Burn them both. But I didn't. Instead, I forwarded the PDF anonymously to a journalist I trusted. I had no interest in making it personal. I wanted it public. Let them connect the dots. Let him watch her name go down in headlines the same way mine had been whispered at parties. Scandalous, messy, unforgettable. As I closed the email window, a thought crossed my mind. David had traded stability for sparkle. Turns out the sparkle was fake. And the storm? Oh, it was just beginning. David called me at 2:14 a.m. Not texted, not emailed, called. That alone told me everything had finally reached his throat. I let it ring. Watched the screen light up on my nightstand, like a warning flare from a sinking ship. Then he called again, and again. On the fourth attempt, I answered. "What?" I said calmly, already knowing the answer. His voice was wrecked, not emotional, afraid. "You need to listen to me," he said. "Something's wrong with Celia." I almost smiled. "Oh?" I replied. "Let me guess. She's not who you thought she was." Silence. Then a sharp breath. "You knew." "I knew enough," I said. "What happened?" "She's being investigated," he whispered. "Federal people came to her office, took records, phones, hard drives. She told me I might get dragged into it because of some wire transfers I didn't even know about. Harper, I could lose everything." I leaned back against my pillows, gaze drifting to the city lights outside my window. "David," I said quietly, "you already lost everything. You just didn't feel it yet." He started talking fast then, spiraling, saying he'd been used, that he'd made a mistake, that he only got involved with her because he'd felt small next to me, my success, my independence, my refusal to make my life smaller so his ego could stretch. There it was, the confession I'd never needed but finally received. "You didn't feel small," I said. "You felt inferior. And instead of growing, you shopped for a woman who could bankroll the lie." He asked if I could help him, if I could say something to my lawyer, my journalist contact, my new mysterious media ally, who he still didn't know was already knee-deep in the investigation. I laughed once, soft, almost kind. "No," I said. "You chose the woman with the money. Now you get the consequences that come with it." He whispered my name like a plea. I ended the call. An hour later, my journalist texted me. "It's going live tomorrow morning. Big splash." I set my phone down and finally slept. Because by morning, David wouldn't just be a divorced man with a ruined reputation. He'd be a footnote in a federal headline. The article dropped at 7:03 a.m. By 7:10, it had already been reposted on Twitter, Reddit, LinkedIn, and an Instagram gossip account that calls itself Pacific Northwest Tea. The headline? "Powerball Mistress Linked to Financial Laundering Scheme. Affair with Local Branding Exec Exposes New Federal Trail." David's name appeared in paragraph 6. Not as a criminal, just a person of interest. A potential unknowing participant in a wire transfer scheme tied to Celia's former investor activity. But in the court of public opinion, his image was already torched. And me? I walked into the Reclamation Project's new downtown office. Yes, we got an office. And was greeted by flowers, messages, and a bottle of champagne from Amanda. "To closing chapters," her note said, "and opening empires." By noon, my inbox had 3 speaking invites, a podcast pitch, and a discreet email from a corporate legal department wanting to explore collaboration. David never texted again. Celia vanished from the public eye. And me? I became more than the woman scorned. I became the woman who built an empire from the ashes of deception. Sometimes I walk past the old coffee shop where I first overheard Celia's name. I think of the lavender oat milk latte, the shaky breath, the way I felt that day, cracked and humiliated. And then I think of today, where I stand, who I've become. There's no rage anymore, no ache, just peace, earned, not given. You can't control who betrays you, but you can control what you build from the wreckage. And me? I built something legendary.